But we'd like to call up our next speaker. That is Mark Fidel. Mark is a seasoned cybersecurity expert with a career spanning over 2 decades and the co-founder of RiskSense Inc. Welcome, Mark.
Good morning, everybody. Any friends from Security in the audience? There you go. Hi. I'll explain why I said that here in a minute. My name is Mark Fidel. I am not the smartest person in the room by a lot, especially for this crowd, right? My background is in finance, in law, in risk management, and in cyber risk management. I was a co-founder of a company called RiskSense, a cybersecurity firm. We did a lot of penetration testing, a lot of vulnerability management, and we were acquired by Ivanti in 2021, and I stayed with Ivanti until 2023 when I left to form my own consulting group. And I guess can one person be in a group? Is that okay? Because it's still just one person, but it's the Fidel Consulting Group. Anyway, that's what I'm doing. And so my clients are technology firms, technology clients. Quick shout out to Saad and to Kristen for making sure this works well today. Appreciate the work you guys are doing to put this together. The person who was to be in this role had an unavoidable conflict, and so I got a text message. Kristen, I didn't even get a call. I got a text message sent last Friday saying, "Hey, can you help us out?" And I said, if you want quantity or do you want quality, right? Because, I don't know. The reason I mentioned Securin is that when Ivanti acquired us, they acquired us for the software that we had built, the platform we had built, the vulnerability management platform we built. But we were doing a lot of pen testing too. And those folks got hired on by Securin to augment the considerable talent that Securin already had in penetration testing and vulnerability management and a number of other areas, what I'll say is proactive. And I note that Securin is one of the sponsors here today. So welcome and thank you for being one of the sponsors. So why is somebody without a formal technology background being a keynote speaker here? Well, because I'm much more like your average customer than your average customer is like you, pure and simple, right? And I was often the bridge between our technical resources, our very, very smart folks on the technical side, and our very smart non-technical clients, right? And I don't know if it was derisively, but I broke things down into check writers and influencers, okay? Who's going to write me the check? It's often not the influencer in the customer area, right? And when we were having pitch meetings for clients, with potential clients, prospects, and we knew we needed to make sure that the deal was there, I needed to make sure that both the influencers, which are often the technology partners in the client's environment, whether they're third-party vendors or whether they're employees, and the check writers were in the room. And I would watch to see what is the reaction that a check writer is having to what the influencer is experiencing. What is that interaction like? Okay? The reason I bring that up is because it's important for us to remember as technology professionals. I know I'm using the royal we. It's important for you to remember as technology professionals that a lot of what you do is not noticed until it's needed, which is actually good. If you're doing your jobs right, then what you're doing likely isn't going to be noticed, unless you're on the incident response side of the thing, the disaster recovery side of the thing, then you're very much under the spotlight. Keep that in mind when you're working, if you're client-facing, if you're customer-facing, and even if you're in an organization where your clients are all internal to the entity, right? You're going to have non-technical check writers, if you will, who you're supporting one way or the other. I think that's critical. So I love the ChatGPT 4.0 build. I I think it's pretty cool, I think it's fun, and just for fun, because Kristen, I had a whole week notice. I said, you have to give the keynote address to this event, gave it the URL for this event, provide a 30-minute speech that is humorous yet involves cybersecurity topics. Kind of a weak prompt, if any of you dabble in cybersecurity and the various chat bots. So the first effort is not good, but I'm going to share with you why it's not good. In brackets, opening joke, and I don't think I'm supposed to say that, but opening joke. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here at B-Sides Albuquerque, where the air is thin, but our security posture is rock solid. Yeah. Anybody feel kind of cringy with that one? Yeah, it's not great. They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but what happens in cybersecurity, well, that ends up on the front page of every news site. Yeah. Not great at the joke telling. Let's start with the basics. Who am I? Just another digital janitor trying to keep the internet clean. I'm here to share some laughs and maybe, just maybe, impart a bit of wisdom about our crazy world of cybersecurity. Again, the prompt was, the feedback is relevant to the prompt because I gave it nothing about me, right? Didn't give anything about me. I gave it just the URL for B-Sides Albuquerque. And, and then give me some humor, give me some cybersecurity topics. So it's trying, I get it, right? And then it goes on. So I said, make this speech mildly less humorous, under the assumption that was humorous at all, right? And slightly more technical. Also, this speech needs to be for 30 minutes. And I got told today, actually speak as long as you like. So for the next 6 hours, settle in. Just kidding. It's not 6 hours. So here's the revision, and I'm not going to read from it. But it did provide some great topics that I'm going to feed off of, right? So good morning, everyone. It's an honor to speak at B-Sides Albuquerque, which it is, so that's good. It ties. Where the cyber minds of today come together. Are we all here? Are all of the cyber minds here? Okay, good. Check. Let's talk about cybersecurity, the field that is as dynamic as it is critical. What I didn't tell ChatGPT is who the audience was, and that was my fault, right? So ChatGPT is speaking, if you will, from the perspective that you all are check writers, not check writers influencers, right? You're not on the technical side of the world. But it gave some interesting perspectives because of the topics it's pulling up. The first was cyber hygiene, right? The biggest problem in cybersecurity is us, humans, pure and simple, right? Anybody having a Microsoft CrowdStrike kind of morning? Okay. I have a niece flying in from Tulsa today. She's on Southwest Airlines, so far unaffected, except their flight is affected because other flights are affected in Dallas, right? So there's an impact there to, a 1 degree of separation impact there to what's going on, right? Times Square showing blue screen of death, right? The Sphere in Vegas, VSOD as well, right? And that looks really good because it's a big curve in blue, okay? But it talks about regular updates, strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, the stuff that we know is basic still comes as novel to some of our clients, right? What if I walk away from my laptop and it stays up on the screen, right? Versus if I close it, can you get into my laptop, right? Big difference here. Who here has left a phone or a laptop in an Uber or a taxi or some other public conveyance? I'll raise my hand, right? Yeah. And really, I care little about the hardware, but I care a lot about either what's on the hardware or what that hardware can access, okay? Any state or government employees here, by chance? Okay, all right. So I don't know how long you've been in state government, but if you were in state government in 2012, you should have received a letter from the PARA, Public Employee Retirement Association, right? And the reason you received a letter from PARA is because a contractor who is doing, an accounting firm who was doing an audit for Para, got data from Para to do the audit. The data they got was on 36,000 subscribers to Para. So people who were both retired and people who were at the time currently contributing to Para. And Para is the retirement, essentially your pension, if you will, if you're a state employee. If you're in education, then it's the Educational Retirement Association, right? But Para is the Public Employee Retirement Association. They handed him the data on a thumb drive at the Para headquarters. He downloaded the data onto a laptop, gave the thumb drive back, left to another project in Clovis, New Mexico. So this was Santa Fe to Clovis. And he was in Clovis for a job for 2 days. On the morning of the second day, he realized his vehicle had been broken into, and 2 laptops and 2 laptop bags were stolen out of the vehicle. At a pawn shop, 1 laptop and 2 laptop bags were recovered. The laptop that had the Para data was not recovered. What's worse, the laptop wasn't password protected. What's worse is that What's worse was it wasn't encrypted. The hard drive wasn't encrypted. So, Andrew, you come up, you take the laptop, you're in, no issues, right? At that point in time, so when would you consider the data breached? Would you consider the data breached, A, when he left it locked in the vehicle, or B, when the vehicle was broken into and the contents were stolen? A or B?
Neither.
A? I'm going with A, right? Because it was out of his care, custody, and control when he left the laptop and laptop bags in his vehicle because somebody else got it, right? At the point of A. Now, it was never determined that any of the data on that laptop ever surfaced in the wild, but you have to consider it a breach, right? For that, at the time, the state of New Mexico did not have a data breach notification law. And if they did, and it was the same law that now is in effect today, it wouldn't have mattered because all state agencies are exempt from the data breach notification law in New Mexico. Just letting you know that, right? Not a secret, but Para had retirees in 50 states and multiple countries, right? People move when they stop working, right? So we had to come up with a way to communicate this information about the breach to 36,000 people. My dad, who's now passed on, but at the time was also a member of Para. So I'm proud to say he received a letter that I helped draft because Para engaged us, not for incident response necessarily, but how to craft the language for the breach notification. So we modeled the breach notification on the most strict at the time breach notification law in the country, and that happened to be Massachusetts, right? By the way, Para didn't have an obligation to do so because was it a reputational risk? Probably, right? But are they afraid people are going to go to their competitor? There is no competitor to Para, so that wasn't a risk, right? But they thought it was the right thing to do was obviously notify and to put into place credit monitoring services, identity theft services, those types of things, right? So they did that. Para is not a big organization people-wise. This took a lot of effort. So they hired a third party. It was actually an entity that Experian started specifically for breach notification issues. So Experian set up a toll-free number for them. They distributed the letter to the database of retirees and members, and they managed this process. So this whole thing, including our $12,000, it's all public record, cost about $860,000. All right? So now, choice A, taxpayers paid for this. Choice B, Para paid for it, but didn't directly charge taxpayers, tried to collect that money some other way. Choice C, the vendor paid for it. C. Close. I didn't give you all the information. It was the vendor's errors and omissions insurance coverage that paid for everything. They were excellent to work with, because I interfaced with them on behalf of Para, and they kicked in from day one to be able to manage this effort. So no taxpayer dollars were affected unless you're thinking, so that the vendors' premiums went up the next year if they could get cyber insurance. And if that happened, then maybe the vendors' rates increased, and then that was passed on to its public entity clients. Don't know. But that's an example of a breach that wasn't a breach. But we can't, right? The data's lost from that perspective. Who here deals with advanced persistent threats in their daily work? Right? What are some of, if I may, what are some of the most tenacious threats you've come across in recent time?
Well, I've seen APT actors
Okay.
compromise every computer in an organization for a year.
Okay.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. And you were able to determine the time frame based on the on the traffic of the network?
Yeah,
And,
full packet capture.
yeah, okay.
File transfer.
Okay. So advanced persistent threats are, they're a problem only when you notice them, right? And when you notice them when triggers are pulled, right? And so sometimes you don't know. And I'm bringing this up because it's very scary for your clients, for your non-technical clients. They've been doing what for a year in our network? That type of response. And then how did this happen, right? We used to do a lot of forensic work, and part of it was in incident response. And boy, the non-technical clients were hell-bent on who did this. So what is that called? That's called attribution analysis. Who do we attribute this to? And I'm not so sure that that's worth the money that is spent on attribution analysis. Because let's say, sake of argument, the client spends that money, or their insurance policy spends that money, right, to figure out ultimately, gosh, it was somebody out of North Korea, right? And I've had clients say, well, can we get them back? Not get the data back, can we get them? Can there be retribution? Can we serve revenge upon them? Seriously, clients want their pound of flesh there. And the answer was always, technically, yes. From a technological perspective, probably. From a legal perspective, absolutely not, right? And that's frustrating. That's frustrating for clients. So when you're delivering what may be bad news to your clients, understand, try to be in their space for a minute, and understand if you're receiving this bad news about your network, how would you want it to be received? You want it to be honest. You don't want histrionics, right? You don't want me in history, right? But you want to be honest and you want to be forthright with them about what's going on. We had a client, and I won't disclose who it was because of what happened. These are the good stories, right? We did a penetration test with a client. We had a kickoff meeting in the client's office. The client's office was on the 7th floor of a 10-story building. When we went to the building for the kickoff meeting, there was no guard activity, right, check-in desk in the lobby. We went to the 7th floor. There's nobody at the reception desk. Instead, there are signs at the reception desk saying IT conference room with an arrow. And it was a nice trail of crumbs for us to follow to get to the IT conference room because that's where we were meeting. Now, I don't know if the signs were specifically for us or they looked like they had been there for a while, so IT conference room. So we were there a little bit early, but not like 30 minutes. We were there probably 10 minutes early. Nobody challenged us at a reception desk because nobody was there. There were 5 of us. We walked through this maze, found the IT conference room, yay for us, right? Very smart, we followed the maze, sat in the IT conference room, and then the clients came in about 4 minutes after we got there. We had the kickoff meeting, we did the pen testing, took about 3 weeks, came back for the exit briefing, right? Exit briefings are always fun. And we showed complete domain capture. We called it, what was the term? It was something by lunch. So, first day, we had complete domain control by lunch of that day. And then we did, our technical experts did other things and showed it a variety of other ways. So the exit briefing, the first slide was a photo of the whiteboard in the conference room where we were sitting. And that photo was taken by one of us at the kickoff meeting 4 weeks prior, okay? What's important about the photo is username, password written in dry erase marker on the whiteboard for a conference room that was not secured, right? We didn't break in anywhere. So was that username and password fair game for our pen testers? Absolutely it was fair game, right? And they cried foul. They said, essentially, you can't do that. And we described how we got the information. And by the way, 4 weeks later, same username and password is still, it hadn't changed. It was still on the whiteboard, right? Now, that wasn't our only path to success, if you will, right? That was the primary path because it was the easiest, right? If I'm a bad guy, I'm going to go the easiest, most expeditious route to get to my goal. And that's what it was. But we also had other methods that we proved out. So it was a gamble, and this was my call on how to present this information. And the gamble was, how are they going to receive it, right? What is their perspective going to be? And are they going to listen to the rest of it? Because cybersecurity isn't just about securing the computing environment. It's about securing the humans as well, right? And they failed in their regard because we walked in unannounced. Well, they knew we were coming, but we walked in unchallenged, okay? When we would do social engineering, they allowed me to be the dupe, if you will, carrying boxes of stuff to try to get into doors to locations because, I can't see my badge because of the boxes. Can you hold the door open for me, right? That type of thing. And for a state agency in Santa Fe, I was giving a security training course, an information security awareness training course, 8 a.m. on a Monday in January, okay? And so because I felt bad for the poor fools who had to sit in my class at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning in January, I brought donuts. So I had 3 boxes of donuts. And I didn't realize that the doors were on maglocks that didn't open before 8 a.m. So I didn't have a badge, obviously, to work for them. But here I am, backpack, donuts, it's cold, and an employee walks up. And she said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Well, I'm giving security training at 8. It was like 20 till 8. And my host isn't answering his cell phone." She said, "Oh, well, yeah, do you know where you're going?" I said, "Yes." She badged me in and then went to her office, and I went up to the security. So that then served as the story that I opened the security training with. She was in the room in my security training. I didn't point her out, but I said, the moral of that story is beware the guy with the donuts, right? From that perspective, that you can walk through a lot of situations if you have, the best way we did it was checking fire extinguishers, right? We're here for the annual fire extinguisher check, have some sort of jacket on that looks somewhat legitimate, have a ball cap on that looks somewhat legitimate. We're here to check fire extinguishers. And where are fire extinguishers? Pretty much everywhere, right? In commercial or public buildings, right? And you can go unchallenged in those regards. Who's dealing with AI in their job today? On any level, right? Go ahead. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm going to thank you for that because I'm going to ask some questions. Who raised their hand? Right here? Did you? If you don't mind. What are you using AI for, or how are you interfacing with it? I can give you this mic if you want. Yeah. Here you go.
Right now, we're going through a feasibility assessment to roll out Copilot to a larger audience.
Okay.
And as a part of that, we're going through the architectural assessment, security controls, and then kind of more tangential to me is our PM uses it often to generate notes from assessment meetings and a lot of other sensitive areas. So that's we're really kind of teeing ourselves up to see if that's something we want to kind of take on.
And I'll be loud here. From an end user perspective, is the data that Copilot is managing, is it encrypted at rest, encrypted in transit?
Yes, but that is...
There's a pause in your voice. Did you hear that? Yes.
While
Tell
data encryption and especially REST and those factors are huge, I've found through this assessment the larger concern is DLP tagging for severity and sensitivity.
Okay, right. Okay, that makes sense.
So while our organization is fairly mature along that journey of having data protection standards across the organization,
Right.
the data tagging will often lift up to the end user.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's an area of potential weakness, obviously, right? Where is the data stored that Copilot is managing? Is it stored locally or is it stored in Azure?
Azure.
And is that continental U.S. Azure, or is it wherever Azure puts it?
Multi-tenancy. Multi-region.
Across the world?
Yeah.
Does that matter to the organization?
Absolutely.
Okay, so, and I'm most familiar with AWS, so pardon my naivete on Microsoft's products. Right, AWS GovCloud, right, allegedly should keep your data in continental US, right? I'm assuming Azure and Google Cloud have similar environments.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, got it. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Who else is working in AI? And I just wanted a description. Ma'am, if I may. Oh, back here. Right there. Thank you. Sorry, you have no idea where I'm pointing. I'm just wildly pointing here.
I was
Go.
hiding in the shadows. So we are a defense industrial company, and
Okay.
so we opted to block Copilot. It's not on a GCC high tenant yet.
Yeah,
Instead, what we decided to do, because we do a lot of research and a lot of development, you're not going to stop engineers from playing with large
Sure.
language models.
right.
So we've stood up an internal data lake,
Okay.
and that way we can control our boundaries. We know where it lives. We know how it's encrypted.
So that's what Copilot is looking at or using.
That's, well,
Oh, okay.
no, we blocked it entirely
At
in
all.
our
All right,
system.
completely. Got it.
And we've stood up an internal
Okay.
controlled AI model
Okay.
that gives our engineers a little bit of room to play.
Is it a proprietary
Yes.
model?
Yes.
Okay, got
Yeah.
it. And quick shout out to CMMC, anybody?
Yes.
Yes. Yay. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. Anyway, the joke now is that I'm like the Team Luddite.
Got it.
Because every time somebody mentions AI, I get a little queasy.
Right.
But we do have to figure out how to work with it safely.
Sure.
We have to figure out how to control it because it's not going to go away. So until the environment as a whole matures,
Fair enough.
we want to protect our people and their hard work.
Fair enough. That makes a lot of sense. You know, it seems to me that AI today is still not the AI of science fiction, if you will, right? The autonomous, what at least the word co-pilot brings to mind is a wingman, if you will, for a fighter pilot, right? Autonomous drones that follow along the plane and can support that manned aircraft, if you will, right? But I think we're getting there very quickly, right? I think we're getting there. In terms of energy demands, it's crazy how much energy is required to do the work that ChatGPT is doing or Google's product. They change names every week, so I'm not sure what their name is this week. You know, on those levels. So thank you for that on the AI, because it is interesting and it's going to be used. It's a matter of how do we do it safely. All right. How am I doing on time? 5 more minutes? Was there a sigh of relief I heard? So here's my question for the group, right? If anybody is involved in both quantum computing and AI, that seems to be a bit of a holy grail, right? The combination of the two. And I don't know you know, quantum, I understand basics of quantum computing, but it's also very, very hard to do, it seems, especially at scale. But once those challenges are there, and then you mix in large language models into that, right, what does that do, right? Quantum is interesting because of the protections it can afford, and on the negative side of things, the ability to break encryption, right, from a security perspective. And so is anybody here working in quantum at any depth? That you, and if you can't raise your hand, don't. All right, that's fine. Okay, that's what I thought from that point of view. So it's a constantly evolving field, right? Please keep in mind the position of the person you're giving either good or bad information to, right? Cybersecurity, here's my hopes for cybersecurity. Does anybody remember the quality management movement in the 90s? Not 1890s, 1990s. Quality management, right? You have a chief quality officer, quality. I've looked and you can't find chief quality officer roles anymore. Why? Because those things have been, hopefully, those concepts have been now built into, right? From software development, the iterative development, agile development, right? We're always testing, we're testing. Sometimes, as is evidenced today with Microsoft and CrowdStrike, the test didn't go far enough, okay? We get that. I'm hoping that, no offense to anybody who has cyber security in their job title, but I'm hoping societally, right, that we don't have the titles in 20 years because the concepts are built into the place. Right now, it's, gosh, that's a cybersecurity person's role. That's the chief information security officer's responsibility, not me as the end user. But yeah, we are, right? Because we're giving end users who aren't cybersecurity professionals access to vast amounts of information based on their roles, role-based access, right? Sometimes correctly, sometimes incorrectly. And if you walk away and somebody walks away aggrieved with that laptop, you're hoping you can shut them down, okay? If there are any, now, Andrew, you set the bar for questions. Are there any questions that I can answer for you at this time? Question, sir.
You mentioned AWS.
Yes, go ahead.
You mentioned that you had experience, sounds like, with AWS Cloud and CMMC. So I was curious if you notice or know if the FedRAMP cloud systems, if they migrated to Red 5 RMF yet or not.
I don't know if they are there yet. And so I don't know its current status today, but they have to, right? Pure and simple, they have to get there. Otherwise, they lose lots and lots and lots of business. So it's a matter of when, not if, I think. Other questions? Everybody's, don't raise your hand. All right, I really appreciate the time. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you for your attention today. Appreciate it.